Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and this is an episode of Ask the Lawyer. The trucking industry in the United States is one of the largest industries in the country, and unfortunately it is also plagued by catastrophic collisions. And today we're going to ask the lawyer about just that. And here to answer our questions is Dallas attorney Marc Lenahan, owner of the Lenahan Law Firm. Marc has helped clients from countries all over the world after 18-wheeler collisions that caused a death or a catastrophic injury anywhere in the United States. And also interestingly, Marc is also the permanent chairman of the National Compassion Fund, which is the charity called to help victims after mass murder tragedies. Marc, thank you for making some time for us today.
Good to be here, Rob.
If you don't mind, before we get into the trucks, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the National Compassion Fund. I understand you just got back from El Paso for something related to that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been the chair of the Compassion Fund since right after the Parkland shooting, the Marjorie Stoneman High School shooting. So I've been to lots of memorials, as you can imagine. These shootings just keep happening at schools, but not just at schools. Like El Paso was a Walmart, and Vegas. So I've been to too many of these memorials. And even having said that, when I walked up to the one in El Paso, it was more than I anticipated. It goes on for 1,000 feet. That's not an exaggeration, 10 feet deep. And it is thousands and thousands of candles, being a Catholic community largely, tons of handmade signs, sculptures. It's notes and posters and photos, mementos galore. It's hard to take a dozen steps without feeling every bit of it.
What prompted you to get involved with that, and not only get involved, but be director of that fund?
Honestly, I've been a crime victims lawyer for 20 years, but when I was asked to take over the chairmanship of the Compassion Fund as it grew into its own 501c3 thing, I honestly wasn't at all excited about doing it. Imagine, I've got a lot of death in my life already, being a small docket catastrophic injury lawyer. But we slept on it. My wife and I talked about it. We just thought that I could help. So we took on the chore, and so now we are among the first people to go in after these tragedies. We're there for the funerals, and our job is to gather all the money that's donated and make sure that 100%, every single penny that gets donated gets to the victims as intended, which I was surprised to learn is just not what had been happening. Really prominent charities would take in money, but they didn't feel obligated to allocate it to the victims. They had a hurricane coming, they'd give some money to the hurricane, something else to starvation. All good causes, but it's not what the donors intended. The National Compassion Fund is purely for the donors. In fact, we got a kick out of a couple of days ago. The FBI tweeted out, if you're tired of worrying about if you're giving money to scammers, fraudsters, give it to the Compassion Fund. So you got to love getting the FBI into it for your charity.
Absolutely. That's great work you're doing there. Thank you for sharing that information with us. So now let's talk about what we're here primarily to talk about, Marc, and that's 18-wheeler collisions. In your experience, is there a couple of major reasons, causes for these collisions, or are there a lot of reasons? Sum that up for us.
Yeah, I would have thought that would be we'd go straight to the truck itself. We would point at things like bad brakes or bad reflective tape or ball tires.
Right.
And all those things are over and over again. We see those when we go in with our engineers and our reconstruction experts. They're always true. And then I thought, no, it's the drivers. The drivers are exhausted. Sometimes they're on drugs. They're undertrained. All of that can be true too. And we see that in a million other things. But having been doing this now for over 2 decades, I realize that it's a different problem than all that. It's money. Everything is done by money. The drivers of the trucks have a really, really hard time getting by on the amount of money they're paid. And there are all sorts of corrupt, terrible incentives to hire the worst possible drivers. For example, let's say that I'm an oil company and I have one of those 40-foot containers that I want shipped from Houston to an oil patch up in Oklahoma. Well, I want to spend no more than $1,500. I don't just shop around for somebody to come do it for me. I hand the chore off to somebody who's going to do the shopping for me. So I talk to one broker and they say, well, yeah, I can get it done. I can find a driver for $1,500. But another broker says, no, I can find a driver for $1,300. So I say, great, I'll take the cheaper one. Well, that's not where it stops. Then the broker goes shopping for the cheapest driver they can find, because they want to maximize the profit in between their $1,300 and how low they can pay the driver. So maybe they can find a cheap driver if there's a good one who is already in Houston who wants to head to Oklahoma. But they could also find a really cheap rate if they find a really bad driver, somebody who has had all sorts of drug problems, substance abuse problems, who drives over illegal hours, who doesn't spend any money on maintaining his truck. That guy will come 300 miles empty just to get the job for $200 even cheaper, because he can't get work anywhere else. And the broker is thrilled to give it to him, knowing that he shouldn't be trusted, because instead of profiting $200 on placing the load, it's $400 on placing the load. So there's a perfectly good, ethical, safe driver sitting in Houston waiting for a job. And instead, we've got somebody driving, 2 hours from Beaumont, who has been driving for 12 hours straight and is arriving exhausted, but he's going to falsify his books, tear them up, write down fake numbers, and take the truck, load it up on bald tires with battery reflective tape, and drive off at 2 a.m, weaving in and out of lanes, being invisible to the folks on the road. And if he goes over the median, crosses into head-on traffic, or cuts off somebody, you can't be surprised, because that's just how it happens over and over again. The incentives to cut the money off from the good drivers and put it on the cheapest, most dangerous outfits you can find is overwhelming.
Wow, that's pretty disturbing, Mark. Well, what's the solution to that?
Well, you know what? The regulations in this industry they're well written. They're not well enforced. Just on Monday, I was at the scene of where we were inspecting a flatbed that had been involved in a case killing 4 of my clients. And I'm walking around this thing. And the flatbed is just it's the truck without the top on. It's just a long thing. You can put pipes, whatever you want on there. And the tape that goes all around it, this little red and white tape, if you look, you'll see it. It is wonderful stuff. It really, really lights up whenever it gets hit with a headlight. You can see it from a billion miles away. But it has to be kept fresh. It has to be torn off every couple of years and put new stuff on there. Problem is, to do that costs about $200. It's not cheap tape. You got to wrap the truck. It costs about $200 to wrap the truck in good tape. Now, truth is, if the trucker is barely getting by, he's not going to spend $200. And so you would think, oh, well, certainly there's somebody at the inspection station who is going to say, sorry, John, you can't roll this truck until you get some new tape on there. Just like if you and I were to go to the Jiffy Lube to get our oil checked and get our state inspection, it's not what happens at all. I'm speaking to an inspector the other day about it. I said, hey, what do you guys look for on tape quality? And his answer was, well, we like to see that it's, if it's a 40-foot truck, it needs to cover 20 feet. I said, that's true. The stat says, the regulation says it's got to cover 50%. I said, but what are you looking for about how new and reflective the tape is? He's like, well, I guess I worry about it if, all the red is gone. Well, listen, that is not the standard. All the red is gone is not the standard. It's got to meet a certain reflective quality that can be measured in lumens. But the truth is, he is also out for the buck. He is not, a sheriff's officer with a badge doing an inspection. He's just a guy who wants truckers to come by his shop so that he can rubber stamp their inspection, get them back on the road, because he wants the next guy and the next guy to do the same. If he starts causing problems for people wanting inspections, they'll go to the next guy. So indeed, the proper inspections happen when the troopers pull people over, if the trooper has time and training. But it's hard to do. Troopers are grossly overworked. Not all of them have the training to do a proper truck inspection, and they can only do so much.
So without proper safety precautions and all the issues you just talked about, tragedies can happen. If I or my family is involved in an 18-wheeler accident, what do we do? Do we do our research? I assume, obviously, medical help first, but then we need to contact an attorney who's experienced in this area?
Yeah, well, let me tell you what's happened while you were being loaded into the ambulance, and this is not an exaggeration. While you're being loaded into an ambulance, there's already somebody on the way to the traffic scene. You will notice, if you're able to walk around the scene, you'll notice that the trucker does not get out of the cab. He's been told not to. Instead, he is probably made his 911 call, hopefully. But after that, the next thing he's doing is he's calling his insurance company and his dispatcher. And they are activating what they call 24-hour rapid response teams. These are teams of people, often inside law firms, sometimes just inside insurance companies, that are already on their way to the scene. And they are going to start collecting evidence, taking pictures. Now, we discovered one of these entities, 2 or 3 months ago. And I knew the fellow who was leading it. I found his card and I called him up and I started looking for speeches that he had written. And I promise you, this is in his speech to insurance companies. He said, I will get there, I will draw a map of what happened, and I will give my map of what happened to the investigating officers, and I will tell them what I think happened. Now, that's all wonderful if he gets it right. If he looks at it with the eyes of the trucker instead of the eyes of somebody independent, then his map and his observations are not going to be what mine would be. Mm-hmm. So they are already on this. I was at an inspection not a month ago, and I was taking pictures of the truck. And then when I compared those photos to the photos that I was able to get off of the body cam from the cops at the scene, I noticed some differences. Not ones that made a difference in what caused the accident, but differences. For example, the little thing like you'd see at the front of a car, Cadillac symbol, mm-hmm. It had been pulled off. Well, why? Why was it pulled off? Because it was a skull's head. They didn't want us seeing the skull's head and showing that to the jury of this man who's, cutting off traffic and killing people on the way. They will peel off stickers if the sticker is Monster Energy drink or, get out of my way. We have to get there quick. The evidence is disappearing like you would not believe. They are on it before the sun comes up. When I can get called within a week, I feel spoiled. Sometimes I get called 6 months later, and it's much, much harder. Evidence is gone. Get a load of this. We talked about if you get your car inspected at the local Jiffy Lube, state of Texas is going to have a record of that. That's not the case with trucks. The person doing the inspection has to hold on to the inspection receipt for 14 months. That's it, 14 months. Sometimes the state wants it, sometimes they don't. But if we don't get to that inspection receipt in 14 months, they don't have to hold it anymore. So evidence disappears like you wouldn't believe.
So time obviously is of the essence. What else should people expect? Do they contact a firm like yours after going through something like this? What should they expect to happen?
Well, the simple answer is that trucking companies are good targets. If you here's the problem you can have as a calling in. If you have a powerful case, you can call the entirely wrong attorney, family lawyer, criminal lawyer, and they're going to take your case because they translate trucking cases into money in their head. They're not going to keep your case. Hopefully, they'll call me and hand it off. Right. Sometimes they'll keep it and just think that they can do good as job, but they can't. This is a very specialized, tricky area law that takes a lot of learning by hard knocks, to tell you the truth. But if the case comes to us, we want to do a couple things. Of course, we want to get every penny we can for the family. We love it when we are sitting here with the financial planner afterwards and we're talking about, well, we've got the money for Johnny to go to dental school. That's good to go. We love that. And we're widows are protected for the rest of our lives. But if we have a case and the right family, and they let us go beyond that to try to make a real difference, boy, that's a big deal. Because we talked about how the investigative standards right now, I have an entire fleet south of Austin that I forced into a major overhaul on the way they were reviewing their drivers. Right now, we're prosecuting a case where we intend to go after the entities that tell brokers falsely that every trucking company is a good, safe trucking company. They do that because they get paid to give the stamp of approval, and that way the broker, can pretend that they're giving the load to somebody safe that they know isn't. And that's never been done before. But if we can make it happen, literally that one case can save 500 lives a year. Wow. So if we have the right case and the right family, we'll try to make that happen.
Wow. And then you're able to help so much more than that one family. That's terrific.
Yeah. We're really proud when we can pull that off.
Marc, thank you so much for your time today and for the helpful information. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Rob. Anytime.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Marc Lenahan of the Lenahan Law Firm based in Dallas. If you want to get the best information about trucking accidents, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, please visit askthelawyer.com, and also take a second and click on the button at the bottom of the screen so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and find out about future episodes. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with askthelawyer.com.